Welcome to your doom.
What's up, everybody? This is the Welcome to Your Doom show. I am one of your harbingers, Atul.
I am Justin Carcassole.
And we are reviewing Aquaman today.
It's about goddamn time.
That's true. We've been talking about. I feel like we've been talking about it because of, like, all of the trailers and posters and all of that stuff have been coming out for like the last 6 months.
Yeah, and like I follow Jason Momoa on Instagram, and the guy's been like all over the place.
Yeah.
For this. Have you seen the video of him doing what's it called? Not haka. The haka.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was food or a dance.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was crazy.
Yeah.
He starts it off with breaking the trident.
Yeah.
He's just you know that there's somebody at the WB like, dude.
Yeah. He's broken them before because he on his YouTube channel he is actually documenting his whole world tour he's doing to promote Aquaman. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably where you saw it or where it was attached to first. Mm-hmm. And he's broken tridents on like multiple occasions. He's like, they just give me tridents, like they ship me a ton because I just end up breaking them all. But yeah, no, he does the haka, and he does a bit of a haka in this movie too. I don't know if you noticed. We can get into that later.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments in
where he just starts speaking another language and getting like crazy face.
Yeah.
Getting that really intense crazy face. I decided. I noticed that you decided that you're not wearing a shirt.
I almost did this completely nude. I'm not wearing any pants, if that makes you feel better. No, I didn't have an Aquaman shirt, so I thought it appropriate to wear just an undershirt. So
I see.
I am. If you want to see me on YouTube, you may, to our mostly male-dominated viewership.
That's right.
But no, I did consider getting tribal tattoos all over my upper body.
Yeah.
I looked at the price and decided it wasn't feasible.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But that being said, after watching this film, I've never wanted a tattoo, like a full body tattoo, more in my fucking life.
Yeah.
Like,
it's pretty wild.
Jason Momoa is like a god. The guy is...
Yeah, he's a beast.
He's a beast. He's a good-looking beast. But at the same time, he seems like a guy that you just want to go and party with.
Yeah.
Like,
he has that... it's like that genuine... down to earth, kind of guy, and like, you know, like through his social media and stuff. You know what? I used to feel like The Rock was like that, like Dwayne Johnson. But now everything he does is mega calculated.
Yes,
like he's a marketing machine. Whereas Momoa just seems like he's just having fun.
Yeah, exactly. Momoa, guys like Ryan Reynolds, or
that's true.
What's his name? Played Cable. Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
All these guys seem like they're very casual off the cuff.
Yeah.
The Rock kind of had that, but now I just don't feel like everything he sounds like is just very polished, and it just doesn't feel.
It's too polished.
It's too polished.
It's like it's obviously gone through like a marketing team.
Yes,
like
I would think so.
Designed by committee almost.
Probably.
That's what it feels like.
But that being said, he is probably that. You know what? It might not be. He's just that polished on the mic. I mean, being a wrestler for as long as he was, cutting all the promos that he has.
Yeah.
He can do that probably pretty easily.
True.
But it does. I don't think he's disingenuous naturally. It just feels disingenuous because it's so goddamn polished. Disingenuous. What did I say?
Disingenuous. Which I understood what you meant.
Well, that's all that matters.
That's really all.
Hey, speaking of which, how did the Atlanteans carry the English language so well for so long? That was one thing. I thought Atlanta was going to come out of the ocean and start speaking to people, and she was just like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'm like, "Huh?"
Yeah, I think they ditched the whole language barrier thing. It just never. That's interesting because in some of the stories they speak Atlantean, right?
Yeah.
Like in like the comics and stuff. So I was wondering if they were going to do that or not. I think they're just like, you know what? We have 10 trillion other things we're doing in this movie. I don't want to have to deal with language.
All right, so
they're just like a calculated scope cut. They're like, you know what? I'm just not going to do that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and to that point, so we'll start talking about the movie a little bit. With general talking. This was a big friggin' movie.
Yeah,
there
massive.
was a lot. It was 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it felt kind of, I would compare it to like an Infinity War, except you don't have any backstory really ahead of time.
That's right.
Justice League didn't really explore much of Aquaman. In fact, I would say that, I mean, you and I have had this discussion multiple times, in that if they would have done these character movies in advance of Justice League, it would have made it a better film.
Yeah.
Or you know, this was before Justice League came out, and we've had that discussion. I think that had this film come out before Justice League, I would have liked the Aquaman character in that film and been more attached to them way better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Yeah, no, I think... I know that... I think I said before that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've done ensemble movies before, and they've done them well. But I think I tend to agree with you, given that Justice League was kind of a chopped up mess.
Yeah. I'm not saying... And keep in mind, I'm not arguing in that I agree with you that there's a good way to do an ensemble movie. It's just that the way that they are doing their characters, it just didn't work. As well. But in any case, we're not going to discuss Justice League. We've done that on verbatim, and frankly, I don't like the movie that much. So, anyways, in terms of actually liking or not liking this film, I hated it. I couldn't stand this movie. It was one of the worst film. I'm just saying this to upset you. I just wanted to see your face. Man.
I actually, I didn't know whether you were going to like it or not, to be honest.
Really?
Like, I didn't know.
I've got to start going into these movies with much higher expectations and way more critically than I am, because I went into this film basically expecting a fun adventure film.
Yeah.
And I got exactly that. Like I'm comparing this, and I'm trying to get Nisha to come with me to watch this, because typically these aren't really movies she really wants to go and see. But the way I hooked her in, or almost did, and she's upstairs, so she'll probably hear this, is I compared it to National Treasure.
Yeah.
It's basically that, right?
Yeah.
National Treasure, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of this adventurous kind of movie. There was another movie I was thinking about that I was comparing it to, and I can't remember.
I've got two here.
Go ahead.
Well.
Yeah. Which ones?
I thought it was basically the love child of The Fifth Element and The Mummy.
Ooh, yeah. I didn't even think of those two, but yes.
The Fifth Element, because that movie is just bonkers in terms of like the amount of imagination on display.
Right.
And the stuff that happens and all the cultures they introduce, and it's so colorful and it's really just a massive new world, that stuff that you have never seen before, and that's how I felt about this movie.
Yes.
And then that movie also has sort of the adventure aspect to it. It's a lot like The Fifth Element, in my opinion. I felt the same way about it. But then The Mummy, where they come in with sort of like that cheesy sort of adventure, 80s adventure, Saturday morning cartoon thing going on. So the way I see it, this movie actually isn't a superhero movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a science fiction fantasy movie. So I was kind of ready. Again, I was kind of ready for an adventure movie. That's kind of all I was expecting.
Right.
And I had worries going in about certain things, and we'll talk about that. But those were kind of they didn't come to fruition.
Right.
So
that's good. And honestly, they packed a lot in this 2.5 hours. I might have mentioned that, but it's the good thing about this movie, as much as there is, and as much as they cover in a pretty long, that's kind of standard for these type of movies, but duration, the movie keeps moving. It keeps
just
moving.
Like it's trucking along at a clip that I wasn't bored. I think the closest time I got to being bored was during the Sahara Desert scene.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I was never bored. It was always like when I was done with one scene, it'd kind of go to another one that I was interested in.
Right.
So I think James Wan knew exactly what he was putting together when he put this movie together. He looked at the material. He's like, I'm not gonna. Instead of shying away from the outrageous stuff as a part of the Aquaman mythology, instead of shying away from it, he just dove right in. He's just like, we shouldn't hide from this. This is what this character is. It's ridiculous, cheesy, but massively entertaining.
Yes.
Right? And that's why the character still exists. That's why there's still stories being written about him. And he didn't try and sweep it under the rug or wrap it in some kind of more realistic wrapping. He kind of was just like, fuck it.
Yeah. It's a fantasy film.
This is a high fantasy film.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And with that sort of guiding principle, I think he's crafted like a ridiculously entertaining movie.
Yeah.
But this isn't going to win any awards for anything other than being entertaining.
I would actually argue maybe score. I really enjoyed
that was another point.
Not only the
so
score,
good.
The mix in general was really good. The way that the sound effects, exactly,
incredible. Okay.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Sorry,
on that.
when you say awards, I mean like there's like the writing and like the plot,
right?
And the acting and all of that stuff. Like this isn't high art in terms of like, you know, there are other movies that do dramatics better. Like if you look at another movie that I would compare this to only because the plots are similar, is Black Panther.
Yes, yeah.
And this movie was a complete 180 from Black Panther. Yes, the kind of like the plots are similar. They're brothers and one's coming back to take the throne, and there's a hidden world that's technologically advanced. They share a lot in common. But this movie went a completely other direction, which is like, we're not trying to answer any sort of like, they're not trying to introduce any big drama.
Yeah.
This is a Saturday morning cartoon. That's what this is. There's a little bit of something in there that I wish they expanded more on, which was the pollution aspect.
Yeah.
And making Ocean Master / Orm, the villain of the piece, a little more sympathetic. I think they could have done it. I think they were this close, and I just feel like they prioritized. They're like, that's not the movie we're making.
Right.
We're not making that movie. We're making the cheesy adventures, that big adventure movie.
And really an introduction, because like this is not the same Aquaman that was in Justice League. He's a little bit more
we just watched the scene from Justice League that he was in, and he's just so angry, and that was one of the things that really kind of made me worried, was because Aquaman has always been treated as, you know, he's been like kind of the butt of a joke, and when they tried to grit him up in the 90s, which is when I was reading Aquaman, which is when I loved Aquaman, was when he had the beard and the hook, and he lost his hand, and because he got eaten by piranhas and like all that kind of stuff. They gritted him up. And I was just hoping that they don't go back and do it again. I was like, because like that worked at that age when I was that age. But they're like, oh, he's, you know, you cast the biggest, burliest guy you can find, make him like super angry because he's a badass, blah blah blah. It's like they kind of did it in Justice League. Like that's the way they were going.
Right.
In this movie, they don't lean into that too much at all. Like he's a regular guy. Like he's not always angry. He's funny. He's kind of charming. Like and they play up his internal conflict of being Atlantean and human, but at the same, but without all of the angst. Like he's not angsty to the point where where it's like, you know, to make him badass, he has to be angry. He doesn't have to be angry. He just needs to be relatable.
Yes.
And I think that was one of my biggest fears going in. He's just going to be like this barbarian.
Yeah.
And for no other reason other than, Aquaman is a badass now. You can't make jokes about him. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's not.
And they cut that down at least a few times in this film, which is good. Like, they cut see that. A soft side. He'll bulk up in front of them and make make this big facade. But he comes to terms with that at least a few times, and that doesn't always work in the best way. And that's not necessarily who he is deep down. So, anyways, and in terms of the characters, just quickly. Anybody really stand out as a surprise to you?
As a surprise? I thought like Nereus, who is Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren's character I actually quite liked in the movie. Even though he was doing a lot of the exposition. You could I feel like when he was talking, he had to rehearse those lines like a trillion times. There was a lot of shit that he had to say. I was surprised by how much he was in the movie, and he has a bit of an arc in the movie, which I kind of enjoyed. But to be honest, when Black Manta shows up as Black Manta, I just fucking freaked the fuck out.
It looked good.
I couldn't believe that Black Manta was in this movie, and he looks exactly like he does in the comic books. Like I just couldn't believe it. And that's just
to a T.
Like it just blew my mind. I'm like, I can't believe they did this. Like I said, James Wan dove in. He's like, I'm not gonna make Black Manta like, I'm not gonna change his costume, streamline it, you know, like X-Men style, where everyone's wearing like leather jackets with X's on them, like that kind of stuff.
Well, that was just because Singer had a leather fetish. But that's neither here nor there.
Right. He was just like, no. If he looks like this and he's got an egg head, we're giving him a giant egg head. Right? I'm like, okay, let's do this. Yeah. So I just really appreciated the fact that he was just a kid. Like he's just, and his imagination, he's like, here's $200 million in an imagination. Go run
crazy.
With it. Yeah.
And he did, and it worked. It worked.
So did you have any standout? You sounded like you wanted.
Manta surprised me as to how little they used him.
Yeah.
However, how important he was.
Yeah.
He stood out.
Yeah,
and the
he
thing
did.
is, that's not to undercut Orm's involvement.
Oh,
in this
I
either.
liked...
Patrick Wilson killed it. He was awesome.
I liked him a lot.
I generally like his work, but
Yeah.
like in this, he crushed it.
Yeah.
His hair was distracting because at times it would be all
Tied
bunned
up.
back, and then all of a sudden it's not. And I'm like, wait, I thought he had long hair. And then it's bunned up again. I'm like...
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird.
Yeah,
That's
was
like
weird.
me bunning my hair. I mean, I guess I don't have as much longer back hair as he did.
Maybe it's like
Not back
Atlantean hair product. He's just putting in his hair to slick his hair back.
Yeah, just like some serious Atlantean gel. It's like jellyfish. It's just jellyfish.
He smashes a jellyfish and just it's attached to his hair like a shower cap, but you can't see it because it's completely transparent.
Oh, Atlantean hair products. See,
Yeah,
there's
that's
going to be a market for that, and it's good enough for the ocean. It's good enough for the land.
Yeah, that's
Atlantean.
right. That's right.
That's the ad right there. I'll take my checks, WB.
So Black Manta, just like the backstory, kind of like
the backstory. Yeah, I didn't think I would actually sympathize with him.
Yeah.
From the get go, considering his introduction's basically murdering a bunch of people right off the bat, and you still manage to sympathize with him.
Yeah.
So give me a second.
Yep. So yeah, as long as you're looking for kind of just an adventure movie and had to be entertained, I think this is going to play well for you. If you're not a fan of cheese, or like 80s science fiction, like massive fantasy, you're not going to like this movie. And I sympathize with you because you have a stone where your heart should be. I'm just kidding.
I just realized I remembered what I compared this to.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
That was I'm kind of just this crazy adventure where it's introducing a whole bunch of different new worlds and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd actually kind of want to compare this movie in terms of like scene to scene as to how Star Wars plays out, because I feel like they're very close.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Anyways, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I can see people not enjoying this movie because it is just it's just a cheese factory.
Yes.
Like this
Yeah.
But I totally get that, but for me it was like catnip. I thoroughly enjoyed
catfish nip.
All right, let's jump into spoilers.
Let's do it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Aquaman, a movie that forced me to ask the question, if Atlanteans never see their tears because the ocean washes them away, what happens to their poop?
You look so serious when you ask that. I don't know. Don't ask me. Don't look at me when you ask that question.
It's more of a philosophical question. I feel like...
I guess it gets washed away too.
But then they complain about the sewage dropping in from the land into the sea, and if they're just shitting in the oceans all the time...
Well, our poop is biodegradable. Theirs is bio-water degradable? Isn't water bio? Anyways. All right, let's talk about this movie.
Yeah.
All right, so the movie starts off with The Lighthouse Love is what I'm going to call it. Yep. So anyways, Tom Curry, Aquaman's father, finds Queen Atlanta lying rather uncomfortably on a bed of rocks by the sea in a storm. Despite an attempted murder and her assaulting his pets, tea boils and love flourishes, and they have a baby named Arthur. Granted, this isn't over the course of a day. This is,
this is like
years
I think she's up there for.
Their love isn't meant to be as the Atlanteans track Atlanta down and take her back to Atlantis, leaving Tom with hope she's going to show up at dawn every morning, and Arthur without a mother. So basically, those are the characters we're starting off with, and within the first 5 minutes of the film, you see a theme that occurs multiple times through this film, where everything has a nice gentle lull, and then a wall explodes.
I was just about to say, I do have a note here. I'm like, I counted at least 3 conversations.
There's more.
Maybe 4, where someone's talking and they're interrupted by explosions.
Explosions or just a general kind of rupture of the entire environment they're in. Like, there's a lot. And I'm going to hit every one that we come across in this. I didn't do all of my research. There's just a few that I remember distinctly, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, James Wan, stop it. I know you like directing horror films, but stop trying to jump scare me with walls exploding.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
God.
That's
and
so
then
funny.
The guy that played Tom Curry, was that Boba Fett or Jango Fett?
Yeah, it was Jango Fett. Yeah.
I had the actor's name here somewhere. I might pull it up.
Tamura Morrison.
Jesus
I think that's his name.
Christ.
Yeah. I know that because of Jango Fett, essentially. And he's been in a few other movies that I've seen. New Zealand Western. I think it's called The Tracker or something. A good movie, but he was in it, and he's a good actor.
He puts in a good performance. He had a terrible hairpiece during these things.
So you know what? typically I notice this kind of stuff, but they de-aged him.
Yeah, they did de-age him.
But I didn't really notice.
Did they de-age Nicole Kidman?
No, I think she's just perpetually like 30 years
gorgeous.
Old.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
She's perpetually like, high 20s. But what was I gonna say? Yeah. They de-aged him, and I didn't really notice. And I think they're getting really good with this de-aging
They're getting
stuff.
better at that. Aside from Willem Dafoe, he looked like a goblin.
Did he? See, I didn't even I don't know
looked
why
like a young mischievous goblin, and then later on he looked like a goblin. I mean, I understand why they cast him as the Green Goblin. But
I was just about to say, did you
say
he looks like a green goblin?
But anyways, let's get back to this picture.
God,
Sorry, my apologies to Willem Dafoe fans.
My apologies to anybody listening to this. This is bad comedy.
Oh, shut up. Listen. So, what did you like about for me? Like, you instantly connected with all of those characters. Queen Lana, you kind of are terrified of because the first thing she does is try and murder him.
And then she eats a fish.
She eats a fish. And he doesn't even bat an eye. That's how horny this guy was. Like, he's like, this is going to get me laid because I saved her life. I bandaged her up. I put a nice little cover on her.
Yeah.
She's nice and I think I got a chance here. Yeah. And then he comes in and she's eating his fish.
He's like,
and he's just like,
not a deal breaker.
This is not a deal breaker.
Not a deal breaker. I can work with this.
Just get the fish away from her. Put the dog in the kennel thing or the little box.
Just don't kill my dog.
Just don't eat my dog. Yeah. Oh yeah, he says that.
He says don't eat my dog. Yeah. No, there's some cool stuff in there, but really the standout scene for me, and this was like really set the bar. This action sequence. Which is a tender moment interrupted by a wall exploding.
Yep.
And these Atlanteans come in, and right away you're like, this is the movie I'm watching.
Yeah.
When they come in, all white suits, about as clunky as a stormtrooper outfit when they come in. That's kind of what it reminded me of. But the suits look great. They were completely outlandish, and I'm like, this is the movie. That's when I was like, this is a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Like I saw the costumes. Real costumes. There's a lot of digital stuff in this movie, and I know people are going to complain about the CG in this movie. I actually thought the CG in this movie was top notch. Like I've seen some bad, like with Justice League, we talked about like some of the bad
green screening,
like bad CG and stuff like that. In Thor Ragnarok, there was some I thought there was some questionable CG. This movie, I think, does the CG stuff really well because a lot of it is actually practical.
Yeah.
These suits are practical. I can't tell some of the stuff in here what's CG and what's not because they have these one-shot action scenes, and Atlanta just completely dummies these guys.
Yeah.
In the house in a swooping action scene that was. It's like I haven't seen this kind of stuff. I had the same reaction to these action scenes, as I did when I was watching Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yes.
I was watching The Winter Soldier. I'm like, holy shit, these are like one take action scenes. These are fantastic. Yeah. I felt exactly the same about this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a good job. I think there's probably some digital cuts in there somewhere.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure. There's
okay.
I'm not saying it's not digital, but I'm saying that a lot of it is practical.
Yes.
And it's augmented with the digital. Some stuff is completely digital, like the underwater stuff, and we'll get to that later. But some of these fight scenes, a lot of them are there. There's a combination of practical and digital there, and they feel concrete. And
yes, they have weight to them.
Yeah.
Every time she hits somebody with a trident, you feel it.
That's where the sound editing comes in, like what the trident's like, and then the fighting with the staves. Like I don't think any other movie has really done that before, where everyone is using these
big
staves,
long weapons,
big like weapons that are like giant forks basically, right? So I was really impressed when I saw that scene. I was like, that was good stuff.
It definitely sets the tone.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Anything else you wanted to talk about from that? Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Anyways, so at this point, you jump forward. Aquaman is aged, and you are introduced to Manta, his pops Jesse, and a gang of pirates, and they attempt to commandeer a war submarine, but are thwarted by the Aquaman, as they're referring to him as the film at that point. Mm-hmm. After a pretty one-sided battle, Curry manages to best the pirates, rescue the ship's crew, and effectively murder Manta's dad in the name of the sea.
Did you call him Curry Man?
No, that's like your superhero name.
But he's Arthur Curry, so
but I'm not going to call him Curry Man. That's a terrible. If he busts? I don't care if he's a 6'8" Samoan covered in tattoos, big long hair, weird ass eyes, and scars all over his face. If he busts down the door and goes, "I'm Curry Man, I'm here to save you," be like, get the fuck out of here. What? What?
Curry Man.
Come again. No, it's because my last name is Curry. Lead with that. Lead with that. I'm Curry, Arthur Curry. Yeah. No, actually, that's not going to work either.
I'm Curry.
I'm
Arthur
Curry. But anyways, so then you're introduced to these pirates, basically. And I really liked his dad, Manta's dad.
Yep.
But this is also another example of a scene where a bunch of guys are talking, and then all of a sudden, it's not quite a wall getting knocked down, but it's a sub getting almost knocked down.
Yeah,
and Aquaman just lifts it out of the sea.
That's right.
Busts through a... Actually, there is a wall break, I guess. He busts through the door.
That's expected, though. Those two soldiers that creep up on the hatch,
true.
and he busts the hatch down. They weren't having a tender moment.
No, they weren't. I mean, they might have. You can see where their hands were.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, and then, I mean, the action scenes there, it's funny how little effort he's putting in for the soldiers. He's just kind of smacking them around and putting them up again and, giving the good old boy thing. Like, good boy. Come on, son. He sons them. He sons them. And I mean, it's pretty well choreographed for what it is.
I loved, like, even
it tells a story.
Yeah, even for a scene like that. Again, I'm coming back to like the uniqueness of these action scenes. When he throws stuff, there's not a lot of edits. Like there's interesting action. When I was watching it, I'm like, this is interesting. It's not just people punching each other. He's using the hatch.
Yeah.
He's using the hatch to defend himself. But he is telling a story. Like you said, he's telling a story because it's informing you of what this character is like.
Yeah.
He's kind of aloof.
Yes.
Like, he's not really prepared.
Yes.
For, like, what's going on here. Because he gets shot with a grenade launcher or an RPG or something later. And I thought that was a great scene where he gets shot and he gets up and he's just like, his chest is completely black. It's burned.
Yeah.
So he's not prepared. And I like that. I also like the fact that this movie gave him a room to grow. He's just a regular guy.
Yes.
And when he's leaving and he makes the decision to not save Manta's father and says, like, beg for forgiveness from the sea.
Yeah.
And he leaves. He comes to later regret that decision.
Yeah.
So it gives him the character room to grow. He's not just like a king right away.
Yeah.
It gives him like he's just kind of this unpolished dude, and as it goes along, he's actually learning things. He learns from his mistakes.
Right.
So so I don't know. What did you think of him leaving the father there to die?
I didn't buy his performance in that moment. It seemed like I think he should have played it more cold, like ask for forgiveness from the sea. Instead, he kind of looked like he was double guessing himself as he was saying it, which maybe is kind of
because he
stops.
He does stop.
He has.
I like
he
that.
has a pause. I didn't. I wanted him to be a little more ruthless, and then that would have made even more of a character journey throughout.
Yeah.
Not a deal breaker, honestly, but that was something like based on the flow of how things were transpiring in those scenes.
Yeah.
Him all of a sudden double guessing it was like a delay in action, like a pause.
Sure.
And I didn't want the moment for pause.
Sure.
Everything was already moving, keep it going.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Manta's dad.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody so reckless with grenades in confined spaces.
Yeah.
He's in a torpedo room, and this guy is launching grenades all willy-nilly.
Yeah.
It wasn't very
It was a
smart.
torpedo room, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then
he punched Black Manta with a torpedo. He grabs a torpedo and goes.
You're talking about Aquaman, or
Aquaman.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the torpedo room, he used the torpedos to his advantage.
But, he did. He smacks him in the head, and it's a vicious fight. Like, I really like the action. It's kinetic without being disorienting.
Yes.
Like, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I liked Black Manta's blades. I liked everything.
It looked good. It looked good.
So this is before Manta is Black Manta. He's still a pirate. He's just a pirate.
Yeah. That being said, they really pushed that whole Manta thing hard.
Yeah.
They're like,
with a knife.
Your grandfather's name was Manta. Here's his Manta knife. I'm gonna need you to be a man today.
I can't.
Anyways, yeah, they did that a lot with nicknames or code names in this movie too. Like even the Ocean Master stuff. Every time Orm said Ocean Master, if you get all four of them, you're going to be the Ocean Master. Like, come on, guys. Like they didn't even really give Vision a name because it just didn't make sense in the Marvel films to be like, oh, look at him. He's a vision to behold. Oh my god. Look at him. He's very fast. He's quick and he's wearing silver. Let's call him the Flash. No, that's taken. All right, Quicksilver. Like it's like you don't need to keep throwing in the like. Let it just happen, man. Like naturally. But anyways, I digress. So his name is Black Manta.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, you sympathize with this character a lot because, I mean, at first he's murdering people in cold blood. He doesn't really seem like he's redeemable, but then he has these really touching moments with his father before the fight. And then again, when his father's basically doomed, and in another careless grenade moment where he takes out a grenade, he's like, this is how I'm going to go. Yeah. I have a gun, but I'm going to use this instead and potentially kill us all.
Right.
By the way, that was a huge grenade. It was the size of his head.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, it's like waterproof or something, like some like depth charge type of grenade.
Fair enough. Anyways, mine are weird nitpick.
I'm trying to like recover from the fucking Manta. All right, sorry, let's stay focused.
Anything else to talk about there?
No.
Orm and King Drago, because I'm not going to call him Nereus, they meet at some like near the surface kind of meeting spot where all the kings were. Was there something else? Yeah, go.
I totally forgot. I noticed two kind of like Easter eggs in this movie, and the first one actually happens at the lighthouse, with the montage of
growing up.
Yeah, not growing up. Them getting together, the Atlan and Tom Curry. Right at the beginning. The camera passes over a coffee table with books on it. Did you notice
the Lovecraft one?
Yeah, there's a prominent H.P. Lovecraft book on the top, and it's the Dunwich Horror.
Yeah.
Lovecraft. There's obviously like Lovecraft deals with giant sort of like eons old ancient gods sleeping at the bottom of the ocean. So this kind of is
a call out to that. Yeah, especially with the Leviathan creature down later in the film.
But the story that they chose takes place. The Dunwich Horror takes place on a farm where like a giant invisible monster is conjured up. Basically, if I were to put it into a nutshell. And I thought a more appropriate story would be like the Call of Cthulhu, but they chose the Dunwich Horror. I'd love to ask James Wan why he chose that particular story to be on the coffee table.
Yeah,
because I would have. I mean, like you have another ancient creature sleeping at the bottom of the ocean story. You didn't use that. You didn't use that story. You used this other one. It seemed odd, but it was cool. And you know, when you know that you've chosen the right woman to spend your whole entire life with, I had that moment in this theater. I was watching it with my wife, Shogu, and she, after the movie, she's like, "Did you see the H.P. Lovecraft book
really
on the table?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I love you."
Oh, that's cute. Yeah. I went to the theater by myself. Okay, so. I legit went to the theater by myself and watched this. But granted, Nish was watching a Raptors game. But,
oh my God.
So anyways, we'll see if she loves me because I'm going to see if I can actually go and see this again and take her.
Yeah.
That's why I was pushing the National Treasure thing. So
right.
anyways, King Orm and King Nereus discuss the impending conflict and get attacked by a warring submarine ship. This is where we're also formally introduced to Vulko. Vulko, right? Did I not?
Vulko,
okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I didn't screw up his name. And it turns out Manta and Orm are in cahoots because Manta was the one that orchestrated the whole battleship thing, right? Yeah. And they meet at this really cool spot. I didn't look up what the name is, but it has a whole history of like Atlantis and the seven different kingdoms.
Yeah, so this is where they set up that whole idea that there are 7 kingdoms, 2 of which I think don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then or
right now
at the moment, and 5 of which are there. Do you want to list them out? Or
no.
Okay, I gotta go for it.
You're gonna go. Okay.
Okay, we've got the Brine, the Trench, Zebul, who King Nereus, aka Drago, is the king of, and we've got Atlantis and what are they? Oh, the Fisherman Kingdom.
The Fisherman Kingdom.
Yeah, so that's 5, and then 2 of them are kind of a mystery.
Right. What did you think about all that? Like
the whole
King Nereus. Like it's funny that you mentioned the amount of. What's it called? Not
exposition.
Exposition.
Yeah.
I was gonna say exposure.
Yeah.
King Nereus exposes himself. That's the director's cut. So yeah, the amount of exposition that he does. God. It's like, oh no, forget it. I'm done. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of talking that happens there, but it's actually well done. It was pretty concise. It gets to the point.
It does, but if you blink,
you'll miss it.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's really the problem with this movie. It's just there's a lot. It's a dense movie, and they try to cram a ton of mythology and world building into here.
Right.
I loved it because the more the merrier, in my opinion, when it comes to this kind of mythology, which I love, but I definitely understand if someone comes in and be like, huh? What'd you say? So I certainly see that being confusing.
Right.
And it doesn't help that that Nereus is the one that has to do it, because he does have kind of like an accent, and then with the digital effects in the water, like you may miss like them saying something. But,
and then his hair's all over the place. It's a little distracting. I mean, that effect actually was done pretty well.
Oh, absolutely. It was very convincing. But
that being said, it was distracting at times, but then the alternative, all right, we'll just have all their hair there, and then you get into the Atlantean gel product, and it just looks ridiculous. So I think that they did as good as they could with what they had to do in that situation. Like, I think that they had to address it in some way. Yeah. That's why everybody was wearing such form-fitting stuff. Yeah. They're like, we're not animating anything else in the hair, guys. If you put a cape on somebody, I'm going to get pissed. Yeah. And then they had Orm with a cape for a brief moment, and they're like, God damn it, what did we say?
But I think that's why they did it, because there's no other indication. Like, what other indication are you going to have that somebody's underwater? They wanted people with long hair. That's why
drowning. The end.
Yeah, the end. But the fact that like Arthur has really long hair, I think that's on purpose, because it's one of the main things that convinces you that somebody is underwater. So they did it on purpose. I think they needed to animate the hair. Otherwise, a lot of those scenes are kind of got like they wouldn't have the underwatery feel.
100%.
They did other things like sound editing for sure was a part of convincing you that they're in the water. What did you think of the dialogue?
I didn't care. I wouldn't. To be honest, like when Justice League did that whole sound bubble thing, it made sense. I get it. But in this one, when they're just all talking underwater, that makes sense too. Like why try and go out of your way to explain something that really doesn't need to be explained? I set it up right at the beginning of the film like they did. They had the dialogue and they were talking. Okay, cool. Yeah. Justice League didn't have any talking, and then all of a sudden they did the little bubble thing so they could talk. All right, so they can't talk underwater. The movies are inconsistent, but if I got to take notes for that environment and world, I'll take it from this movie instead of Justice League.
Absolutely.
Especially because all of the dialogue between Mera and Aquaman in this film is light years better than what they did in Justice League. We watched a little bit of their scene, and it's bad.
It's a bad scene.
God.
It is not a good one.
No, it's not good.
From Justice League. But yeah, no, I'm totally on board. I think people would overthinking it with like, how are they going to talk underwater? They're just going to talk underwater. Yeah,
they're Atlanteans. How are they able to breathe? Yeah. How are they able? Like, come on. There's bigger questions if you want to start nitpicking. Yeah. All right. So then, after an all-day drinking session with his father, Arthur decides to drive them home, but not before Mera asks for his help. He declines at first, but is more motivated to accept after a wave drags the surface world, nearly killing his dad, and he's rescued by Mera again. Yeah. Yeah, and at that point, he learns her name for the first time. Yeah, because I guess they never mentioned it in Justice League.
Yeah, they didn't.
It was a great that bar scene.
Oh, I loved it.
It was the best. It was great. When the bikers come up to him and they're like, want to take a picture with him with the big pink phone. Not what you would anticipate a gang of angry-looking bikers coming, and then the progression from weird, uncomfortable picture to just rage.
Yeah,
was
raging,
awesome.
drunk, good time. And I'm like, that's.
It wasn't until I started writing out this summary that I realized that him and his father literally went to a bar and started drinking from the sun up until the end of the night. I think we have a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think alcoholism is strong in that family.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that scene when his father is like, she's like, how is it that whenever I come to visit you, could, no matter, like, you get older, because he's not aging the same way,
right? Yeah,
and he's like, but you can still drink me under the table, and his dad is like, that's my superpower. I was like,
he says it in a way that's kind of fun and endearing too.
It's good. Yeah, no, it's a great scene, but again, it's what they're explicitly steering away from the characterization from Justice League.
Yeah.
Because it starts, you're like, oh, this is going to be a bar fight, and he's going to have to prove himself to these people. But they go completely the other way. Yep. And I'm so happy they did that, because I was very worried that they were going to overcompensate.
Right.
And they didn't. And this is one of those scenes where you're expecting to see an angry bar fight where everyone's like, oh my God, he is a badass. Right. But they completely went the other direction.
On that.
And I enjoyed that.
Also, there's one thing I forgot to mention in the previous scenes when they were discussing, when Orm and Nereus were discussing stuff underwater. That's also another incident where two people are talking and then a wall explodes.
Yeah, that's
or rather,
right.
a statue does in this, but they were behind the statue, so it was acting as a wall.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Yet again, another example.
This is when you get to see also, and this is going to be a long episode because there's so much detail.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a dense movie to unpack.
Orm is riding a mosasaur. Okay. Like it's like a
the big shark.
It's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Or is it a mosasaur? Mosasaur is the one from Jurassic World. I think it's a smaller version of that.
I'm not a marine biologist. You're not going to hear me conflict with this.
But then, and the Zebel guys, Nereus and his army, are riding these sea dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then the rest of like the Atlantis army are riding giant armored sharks. And I'm like, what? This is insane.
Yeah.
And I loved every fucking second of it. There's so much crazy detail there. And they... it's imagination completely run rampant, and they use his ride, like his mount, really well because he races up to the submarine and uses a trident to like cut it open. It's just the interaction between him and his mount is good because they it's really well thought out.
Yeah,
they use it later in the movie as well. So
agreed. Yeah. So back to Mira and Arthur, you get that really good moment of them kind of like after Mira rescues him the second. Oh, not second time, that time. No. You get a kind of nice moment where they kind of make peace, and he said he agrees to help him because she
she saved
the dad.
Yeah.
So we'll keep moving. So basically, after they've made peace, Mira and Arthur make their way to Atlantis past the impenetrable Aqua Cannons. They meet with...
Remember that for later, folks.
They meet with Vulko, and he insists that Arthur must acquire the MacGuffin that is the trident of Atlan. Their meeting is cut short after they find the Atlanteans find Aquaman and he's taken prisoner. He's brought before his little brother Orm and he challenges him to combat. After his mother's trident breaks, Mira rescues him after Orm hands him his ass.
Yeah, Orm kicks the shit out of him.
I mean, it was pretty close. It's just that, that it was an unfortunate malfunction of the trident. But anyways, Mira rescues his ass again and they escape over the impenetrable Aqua Cannons. All right.
Yeah.
And they hide in a whale's mouth and make a slow escape to the Sahara.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot going on here.
Yeah.
When she takes him to Atlantis, it's like really a massive wow moment for this movie because they really, it kind of reminds me of Jupiter Ascending, but like a better version of that movie. I don't know if you ever watched that.
I haven't. My comparison was actually Tron.
I never saw Tron.
You didn't see
either version. I never saw the old version.
The old one's a little tough to get through now, but the new one, you need to watch that film.
Yeah, it's
interesting. The way that they play with darks and lights, visually, and then on top of that, the score by Daft Punk. It's bananas. And the way that they played with the lights and the darks in Atlantis, and then some of the synth in the score.
Oh, dude, so good.
It was really good.
Yeah,
but it had a lot of callbacks for me personally to Tron.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing because I really really like the new. It's fucking old now, but the Tron, the newer Tron remastered or whatever they called it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that this movie has this kind of like the Fifth Element piece coming out where you have these swooping shots. A lot of thought put into how things work in Atlantis. I can think my favorite thing is the jellyfish lampposts. Did you notice that?
I didn't even notice that.
Did you notice that the spotlights are glowing jellyfish? They're like lampposts, but they're jellyfish.
Do you think they work in shifts? Like Bob the jellyfish comes to relieve Joe. Is like, all right, your shift's up. They clock out, and then the other guy just sits on the top of the post.
That's right. Probably. It's just
either that or it's like slave jellyfish labor.
Yeah,
that's not
they're
cool.
Just chaining them to posts. Yeah. But it's like stuff like that where clearly there's been a lot of thought put into here, and like it is staggering amount of production design. It's just like it's really wild.
Yeah.
So they enter Atlantis and they meet in this sort of sunken ship thing with the air bubble, and then we get another really good action sequence where we're introduced. Oh, this is another scene where they're talking about something and a wall explodes.
Yep.
They're talking about finding the trident of King Atlan and the wall explodes. But we're introduced to the commandos, the elite commandos, because you kind of have these white jobber ones, the ones in the white suits, they go down pretty easy. But then you get these guys, like they make a show of it. These red commandos come in and they light up their like blades.
Yeah.
They look fucking cool as hell. Everything in here looks cool. And again, I keep mentioning the Fifth Element, but like they're really boxy and big, and you think they're not going to be able to move, but they're like combat rolling and everything, and they're not CG. Like they're combat rolling. It's a real suit, right? I don't know if do you remember Fifth Element at the beginning where they had those giant the giant robots, sort of kind of like robot people, but they look like giant the penguins.
The characters that come with the little key thing.
But like, how impractical was that design? But people remember that, like that design. It was inspired, but they're kind of like when they're walking. You know,
if they didn't cut their scenes of walking the way they did, it would have been a 4.5 hour movie just for them to go from the ship to the pyramid. That's it.
Right. But this kind of reminds me of that in your face design where it's like, I don't care if it's practical. I just think it looks cool as shit. And they do that here, but they also manage to make it practical in the fight scenes.
Yeah.
The guy that takes Aquaman down in that scene and ends up bringing him to Orm, his name is Merc. Did you catch that? This one of the elite guard, his name is Merc, and he's a character in the comics, like a prominent character.
I just call him Toilet Head.
For reasons that you will understand later in our review. But yeah, so I really did enjoy that action. Every action sequence in this movie I thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah. But they introduced these elite commando people in this scene.
And then you get a lot of the brotherly angst between Orm and it's again, Patrick Wilson plays it really, really well.
He's completely downplayed, cool, and calm, and calculating, and I think Patrick Wilson is like one of the best working actors today. I think he's one of the most reliable actors. I always enjoy seeing him, and he was in the second season of Fargo. I don't know if you ever saw that, really? But he's really good. He's the main character, one of the main characters. But everything, like even like his turn in Watchmen, in the Conjuring films, like he's a very good, and incredibly handsome. The guy looks like a doll. Have you seen him in real life? Like He's got the jawline. He's got I don't even think he has to shave. Like he doesn't grow hair on his face, like that kind of. And he's got those pearly blue eyes. He's a striking looking fellow, too. So really enjoyed his performance.
Clearly,
yeah, a lot.
But then, anyways, you have kind of this touching moment before they actually go to war and fight, where he basically says, like, "Dude, we're brothers. Your fight, we don't need to do this. Get out of here." And Aquaman doesn't take it.
Yeah.
He just kind of goes with the big, kind of like overly aggressive stance of, I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He ends up getting, dummy. He puts up a good fight. I'll give him that.
He puts up a good fight, but he's clearly getting dominated.
Oh yeah,
in that fight.
He's out of his
which is great because they have somewhere to grow from.
Yes,
there, which
absolutely.
Is good.
And then Mira comes and
they do something similar again, and like Black Panther has a similar scene where he fights his brother and gets dummied and then comes back later.
Were they brothers?
Oh, maybe not.
I don't think so. Or was he? I don't think he was the illegitimate. No, he was the kid of the guy the king killed.
Oh, yeah. So they weren't. Yeah. I guess they weren't brothers.
Close enough. They were brothers of Wakanda.
Yeah, sure.
Anywho.
But yeah, so this fight scene that they do here, this is the first real underwater one-on-one you see?
Yeah, and there's a lot of CG stunt doubles at work in this, and honestly, I mean, it's not perfect, and these things are very rarely are.
No.
But it was good enough.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that the way that they choreographed the action in it, the way that they didn't try and superimpose the CG stunt doubles in with the actors like constantly, like they try and fill it in. It was just kind of like one big scene and then they'd cut to like a close-up and then another big CG scene.
Yeah.
I like the way they did it because there's nothing more that annoys me when they constantly are transitioning from like the body doubles to like the actual actors. It kind of drives me nuts.
I feel like I'm in the opposite camp. I feel like sometimes it's noticeable, and when it's noticeable, it turns me off. But like, it's hard to do that right. But they've done it. There are scenes, I feel like in Man of Steel, they've done that where it's transitions from a body double to to like Henry Cavill, like a real actor, and it's convincing. But I think that's actually like the ideal scenario. That's kind of in one shot transitioning from a CG stunt double to like the real actor, and I think they do that.
They do that at least a few times in this. I'm saying,
and they do it well. I think it works as well as it could. It's still a CGI fest. But
what I'm getting at is that they didn't overuse it and try and injected in a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to compare it to a movie that did that and did it really poorly.
I feel like a lot of movies do it poorly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there's enough. I'm sure Marvel films, like some of the Spider-Man films, will do that. There's constantly like where you'll have the CG stunt doubles going in there doing their thing, and then they'll transition just in a weird way. Man of Steel does do it quite well. I will admit that. This film didn't try and overdo it. They said, all right, let's just do the CG part here, and then we'll do a cut to another shot, and that'll just be completely action-based.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not cutting from, like... Anyways, I digress. You get my point.
They're also showing us action that we've never seen.
Never seen before, and that's
like
the thing.
Completely brand new stuff.
Right.
People fighting underwater.
Exactly.
And, like, what would it look like?
Yes.
And they really are creative about the physics about how someone would fight.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's impossible to do without, having some of that CG
absolutely.
stuff.
You need it.
Yeah, but the presentation's good. It's not as good as a real practical fight scene, I think, but it's showing us something we've never seen before, and I think that uniqueness kind of makes up for the fact that it is kind of like it is CGI heavy.
I would rather it be CGI heavy than them try and do it practically.
I see.
Because in this regard, like then if you try and do it practically, then you're going to get something like what is it, House of 1,000 Daggers or.
Oh, yeah. House of Flying Daggers.
Yeah. Or Crouching Tiger, where they're running on little tiny branches, and it just looks wrong. It looks floaty, it looks weird, it looks wrong. If they tried to do that too much with something like this, it'd look weird. Like, for instance, like Blade 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dated in terms of the tech that they were using then, but like some of the stuff that they had when they were using the CG stunt double of Blade, it made sense to do it there, because what they were trying to convey... doing it with a person on a wire might look really, really strange.
It's funny because I was thinking of Blade 2, and Blade 2 has a good example of a CG stunt double.
And a bad one.
An atrocious, awful example.
Agreed.
The first scene where he jumps out of the window and he does the flip and lands on the ground, that transitions to a real actor.
Yeah.
So Wesley Snipes. And that's a great scene.
Yes.
And I think that's aged quite well.
Yes.
Like, even now, I think it looks pretty good. But then there's the fight scene in the warehouse, like his place, where it looked like a Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's awful.
Yes, exactly.
So those are two, in one movie, there's
good examples and bad examples.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But overall, I thought the action was good. I liked what they did, and I don't think that trying to make it more practical than it was would have done them a service. I think it would have done them a disservice.
Right. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention about this scene, best cameo in the movie, made me super duper happy. Octopus playing the fucking drums.
Oh, fuck that.
That's boom, boom, boom. I'm like, yes!
Why?
Great!
Why were you so excited by an octopus playing drums, you weirdo?
Because what's better than a drummer with 2 hands?
8.
A drummer with 8 hands, my friend.
Would you have been more excited if they had 2 octopuses? Octopuses?
Octopuses.
Octopi. Yeah.
Octopi. No, because then it's not the same person. It's 2.
I mean, it's not a person at all. It's an octopus. Anywho, I was not nearly as excited about an octopus.
Dude, when I saw an octopus playing the drums, I'm like, this is my kind of movie.
Okay, all right. Can we move on now?
My Fruit Loops. Yeah.
There's a really good chase scene too that we kind of glossed over.
That's true.
And I'm not going to go into too much detail because I mean, at the end of the day, it was kind of like any other space battle you've seen. It looked good. There were some stakes. The Aqua Cannon thing was just silly, but I mean, I knew that was coming. The way that they made it sound like, why can't we go over the wall? Because of those things. We're like, well, that's going to come back. And it indeed did.
Manta.
But what...
He's like a manta.
But what I didn't see coming was the amazing...
the escape.
The whale escape and the whole Pinocchio bit. I was like,
that was
all
funny.
right, I can get on board with this.
That was funny.
That was good.
And this also showed another cool thing where it's like not all Atlanteans can understand the secret.
The fish.
Yeah. Somehow Aquaman has ended up with that ability to understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
And that comes into play later. And I like that. I like that that's a unique trait just to him.
Yes.
And it evolves as the movie goes. So it's like an interesting thing, and it pays off toward the end. But the whale escape scene was quite funny.
It was good, nice and simple. They did exactly what they needed to. So anyways, the whale somehow gets them over to the Sahara. I mean, I don't know where you never know. Maybe
Do you notice the subtitles in this movie are like where things are?
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Indian Ocean. Somewhere in the Pacific.
Well, it's like why we don't put our address on the podcast is, that way we don't have...
Somewhere in Toronto. My
Keep
God.
it nice and...
Yeah,
nice
no,
and vague.
like I said, this is a cheesy fucking movie.
Yeah.
With
God.
subtitles like Somewhere in the Atlantic and yeah.
All right. So anyways, they randomly have to go to the Sahara. They jump out of plane. They stumble onto a temple via a sand hole.
Yeah.
And a single drop of water activates an Atlantean tape deck that used to need, I guess, an entire room of water, but a drop did it.
Yeah.
And it plays King Atlan's last message and basically says, yo, go to Italy. Peace.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But it gives you the history of Atlantis. That used to be a surface-dwelling world. And through Atlan's experimentation, he managed to sink Atlantis to the bottom of the sea.
Which was funny to me because they just slipped in the whole breathing underwater thing too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, but yeah, we can now breathe underwater. I'm like, wait, what?
I think, yeah, they definitely slid that one in, but I think it's supposed to be an after effect of the experiment that he was doing.
Yeah.
So like you see the wave go through the city.
Yeah.
So
it just seems so like injected in there. They're like,
you're
all
right,
right, yeah. And then they all sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Excuse me, how do they breathe underwater? Oh shit, we didn't think of that. Let's just have him breathe underwater. All right, Frank, we'll do that. Yeah, it's good.
Can you just record this line?
Yeah.
I feel like they were watching it Final Cut, and James Wan's like, "Oh shit,
yeah,
I forgot about that."
Just sneak it in.
Yeah,
but yeah, no. I mean, the set design there was great. I liked the temple and the way they were hanging. It was great.
Again, this is new stuff. I keep comparing it to like Black Panther. Black Panther felt super fresh because we're seeing a culture and designs that we've never seen before. I felt the same way with this movie. You're seeing stuff like the trident design. Every family has their own trident. Every royal family has their own trident design. And when Atlantis sank, all of the peoples splintered.
Yes.
And that's how the 7 kingdoms were formed. And they all evolved differently.
Yes.
And one of them evolved into like the trench, which are like these mindless,
devolved,
like,
really.
or devolved,
Yeah.
And the fisherman kingdom and all of the brine and all of this stuff. So it's this wildly unique culture that I just absolutely was just digging. I loved all the designs, how different all of the 7 kingdoms were. That's my bag. I love seeing different factions in the movie. And I keep bringing up Black Panther, but Black Panther did that as well,
right?
Because they had different factions of the Wakandan army.
Yes.
And so you had the guys with those like the cape shields,
the white gorillas or whatever they call them. I can't remember.
I can't remember the names. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I love that. I wanted to see more. I always want to see more, and this movie had the same effect on me.
Yeah. No doubt. So anyways, they have their next heading, so they go over to Italy, apparently, because that's where they got to go, which is great, in Sicily.
Yeah.
And Mira and Aquaman go, and they find what they need to find. They find that their heading that they have to go to, and then they're attacked by Manta and some of Orm's goons. Yeah. Now, I glossed over there was a montage of...
Oh, I thought it was so funny.
I was just like, okay,
all right. It was, but again, it's like super cheesy. He's doing it on purpose. Like even the scene where they're coming out of the ocean and some Pitbull song was playing, like he's doing this on purpose. Like this is a calculated cheese factor move where he's like where they're coming out of the water and this like hip hop song is playing. It's like from a Fast and the Furious movie, which he also directed.
Yes.
Right. And then when they have these romantic moments in Sicily because they have a conversation about not the whole surface world isn't like this.
Yes.
You can't judge it based on
they had that in the Sahara.
Yeah. I like those conversations because she accuses him of judging Atlantis as well.
Yeah.
But
you mean the place that just tried to murder him publicly? Yeah,
That's right. But then when she's in Sicily, the idea is that she's learning about like surface culture, and it's purposefully cheesy.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just kind of like the fact that he's not glossing this. He's not shying away from the fact that yes, this is ridiculous, right? But does it in such a fun and entertaining way.
True.
They both eat flowers.
I like that he just ate the flowers. He could have been like, "Whoa, don't do that," yeah. And he's just like, "Well," he's like his dad. He's like, "This is gonna get me laid, so I'm gonna eat this flower."
Not a deal breaker.
Not a deal breaker. But yeah, no, the montage to me was just like, okay, how much time are we going to spend on this? And it was also just like, oh, guess what? He's also a tech genius. I'm like, why are we doing this? Just get him to like
tech genius.
Well, I mean, he's putting together this suit. He's programming stuff. You see him like putting together.
Oh wait, what montage are you talking?
Manta. I'm talking about Manta's.
No, I've been talking about the romantic montage.
No,
holy fuck.
No, that was fine.
That's what I'm talking about.
No, I'm talking about Manta's montage.
That
just seemed like another James Wan injection, and they're like, all right, cool, here's Black Manta. Mr. Wan, how did Black Manta get his stuff? Oh, shit.
So I do want to talk about that for a minute, because Black Manta isn't sort of cahoots with Orm.
Yeah.
But then he's like, okay, we know that they're in Sicily, so we're going to go and attack them.
Yeah.
You can lead my commandos. Here's some Atlantean, gear.
Yeah.
He shoots the gun, and his first thought is, how can I get these on my eyes?
Yeah.
Why is that
How did it go there?
Why is that the first thing he thought of?
It would have been so much more streamlined. Like, if they wanted to do the gag of I need a bigger helmet.
Oh, I loved that, though.
I didn't mind. I like that. I like that. But I'm saying that they could have given him a much smaller helmet and him put it on and it doesn't fit on his head, or he puts it on and it's uncomfortable, or something along those lines. You could have done a more streamlined gag without having to inject some 2-minute montage of him going pew pew. Like, you don't need that. Just streamline.
That's true. I mean, but I liked it. I don't know what to say. When he's like, "Oh, I need a bigger helmet," I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, but when he
yes, you do, egghead.
When he said, "I need a bigger helmet," my only thought was, "Oh, what? That one's gonna blow up less?" Like,
he needs more room to let the heat dissipate. That's all.
Yeah, in his face. Yeah. It's a helmet. Ridiculous.
It
would have been better if they opened it up and they're just, or it was just too big. I don't know, whatever. I feel like there's a better way to do it than inject it in a 2-minute montage where it reveals his head's probably going to explode unless he has a bigger helmet.
Man, if you didn't tell me you were talking about the Black Manta montage, I'd be really fucking confused right now.
Oh,
what do you think when I said eat the flower? Were you still like, yes, I remember the scene where Black Manta eats the flower. He's like, I need a bigger helmet.
It's just like a running theme in this DC universe. In this level of the multiverse, flowers are food. Yeah. Specifically red roses.
All right. So we talked about 2 montages. One was a romance one, and one was the Black Manta one.
Arguably a romance.
Arguably, yeah. With his
own head.
Yeah, with his own
head. I love you, head. If only you were bigger. Okay. So anyways, they end up finding where they're heading is in Sicily. Yes. And we have another occurrence of a wall breaking in middle of a conversation.
That's right.
And that's when Manta shows up in epic form.
Holy shit. When he shows up, I was just clapping in the theater.
Yes.
Like, holy shit, this guy looks amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
The action scenes are great, both because it diverges between Aquaman and Mira.
Yeah.
The chase scene with Mira, and as soon as she got the wine and turned them into daggers, like all of that was perfect. I really dug the chase scene in general, because you've got the guys trying to go roof to roof, and the other guy's just like, fuck it, I'm going this way. Yeah. It was Toilet Head. Toilet Head's like, fuck it, I'm going this way, and just starts running through walls and buildings.
Yeah.
It's great. And then Aquaman's just desperately trying to survive against Black Manta.
Yeah.
It was great how even that fight was. I like that a lot.
Oh, me too.
I mean, up close, it's not an even fight for the most part, unless Aquaman, Manta gets his blades in. But like at a distance, he's at a huge disadvantage.
Oh yeah,
and it was. Right. I mean, it was a good fight, a good, well choreographed battle between those two
even
characters.
The hand-to-hand stuff is so exciting.
Yes,
like the way it's edited, because usually sometimes like when you watch movies, they're like the combat it's just a thing that happens, and I kind of like it doesn't really strike a chord with me.
Yeah, you don't.
But every hand-to-hand combat scene in this movie, I was like, whoa, this is stuff I haven't seen. Where this guy's in a massive costume with a giant egghead, and he's super nimble and dangerous.
Yes,
he feels dangerous. He doesn't feel slow. The commandos, they feel dangerous. They're on Mara the whole time. Like when she's jumping from roof to roof, she is desperately trying to escape the gunfire.
Yes.
And you got that one commando that's just like remodeling every home that he's running through. Just like running through walls and shit. And I'm like, oh my God. And I never felt confused.
Right.
Or anything like that. It's just so creative and unique. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yep.
And to top it all off, Jesus turned water into wine but did he turn wine into death daggers? No, sir. No, he did not.
That would have been a pretty good move if Jesus did that, though. It would have been a good rewrite of the Bible.
Yeah, it's a different... Yeah. So
the director's cut of the Bible.
But yeah, no, I can't say enough about this action sequence. It really is like the centerpiece of the movie.
Yes,
and
100%.
And
to compare this movie again to Star Wars, he is the Darth Vader of this film.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes in. He's more, I would say, arguably more formidable than Orm was in their two battles. He has more of a rage behind him, a revenge feel. He's more menacing. He's more physically imposing from a visual standpoint, and he's got a big fucking helmet on.
Oh, dude! Yo,
if he had asthma, it would have been Darth Vader.
Asthma. Yo. Did you see he fucking headbutts Aquaman? Did you see that?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, dong! It sounded like a fucking church bell. I don't know what's going on in there. He must be like...
I know. Why did I get a bigger helmet?
But there is a scene where he grabs it, dong! And it's just like this bell sound.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man. Too good. It's too good.
But, yeah, it was just good. Anything else you wanted to cover in Sicily?
Merc, you're calling him Toilet Head because Mara cuts off his arm, first of all.
Was he the one who got his arm cut off?
Yeah, he's running out without a hand.
Yeah.
And then she rips the water, because they're in these suits, and they also slip in the fact that only ones of royal blood can breathe air.
Right, yes.
So, like, that's why these commandos are in these massive suits, because... they're submerged in seawater.
Right.
She manages to drain the seawater out of his helmet, and he's like panicking, looks around and sees a toilet, and he sticks his head in the toilet, and he has this moment where he's like, basically, it's a remake of the scene from Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
When Joe Pesci sticks his head in the toilet.
Except I'm not sure if I saw Merc again. I'm convinced he's still in a Sicilian toilet.
He's still there. He's like, how do I get from this toilet to the ocean? He got to carry the toilet. He's gonna be Toilet Head. He's gonna be like Black Manta, except it's gonna be a giant toilet on his head in the next movie.
Oh, Manta and Toilet Head.
Oh God. Oh, yeah. So that was the only other thing I wanted to mention. They didn't kill him, and I'm pretty sure they're going to use him later because he's a prominent character in the comics.
Right. So Mira ends up stealing a ship, which was also kind of a cute moment.
Yeah.
Rescues Aquaman because at that point he's safe now that Manta's gone, but he was pretty much almost at death's door.
Yeah.
So they end up reaching the trench and they fight through all the demon creatures that occupy it, and then they get to a portal that takes them to the uncharted sea at the center of the planet.
Yes,
that's what they call it, which is the hidden kingdom or whatever.
Yeah,
they call it.
Yeah, I think it's one of
the seven. Yes.
Yeah.
And then they run into his mother there, and hilarity ensues. Like I think everybody saw that one coming. Yeah. Like they put her in the trench and she's gone. It's like, nah, she's not. Come on, she's in the trench.
That's true.
I thought she was gonna be commanding the trench, but it was kind of as soon as they went to the next thing, I was like, well, let's bring her in.
I was hoping they'd do more with the trench, but just coming back to the trench themselves.
Yeah.
It's great. This is where James Wan did some of his horror stuff here.
Absolutely.
And I really did enjoy this because Wan comes from a significant horror background. Like he was like the first Saw movie. I think it was his first big movie.
He did Saw? I didn't know that.
He did. And then the Insidious, which I think is a great movie, starring Patrick Wilson as well. And then The Conjuring 1 and 2, also starring Patrick Wilson. So he comes from a massive, like, low-budget horror background, and his horror films are very good, and he got to flex some of that here, other than the jump scares of walls exploding in mid-conversation. Here, and the design for the trench, they look exactly like they do in the comics, like really good stuff. When the visual of them escaping from the boat, I'm like, it's like a painting.
Best. Yeah,
it's so incredibly breathtaking. I really love that imagery where he's got the flare. They jump off of the boat and they're swimming down into the depths, and around them the trench are just like on their tail. Then the trench, they're swimming down, and the trench, like a group of them comes in. He's like fighting them off, like cutting this swath through this like
100%.
thousands of trench. monsters. And
there was somebody sitting in front of me, and I heard her go, because flares burn underwater.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
That's their design for that. And she just goes, "That's so stupid. Like you can't have fire underwater. It'd just burn out." I'm like, oh fuck. And then she kept saying that the more that they had it. She's
really?
like, "Oh, she's gonna light another one." I'm like, I kicked her seat. I kicked her seat. Not hard, but a little tap. And it wasn't like I wanted to see where it would go. So I was like, well, I have to do this. But luckily it was kind of over. And I think she probably just thought it was like me crossing my legs or something. But I kind of gave her a little.
Well, she was also talking during the middle of the movie. So
yeah, and she was. It wasn't quiet. So
yeah. But yeah, no, that scene, just from an imagery standpoint, looked amazing. And then this like dinosaur island thing. I'm like, wow, they've gone to Skull Island now. Like. And there's like a pterodactyl flying there. It's just like, I'm watching them, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like overwhelmed with the amount of stuff here that's going on. And Nicole Kidman shows up again, dressed as like, she's like obviously killed a few trench creatures and like stolen their bodies.
Yeah.
Just
kind of morbid. I like it.
Yeah. So then we get, which is another just like really cool scene. I thought it was a super cool scene where. Anyway,
she points them to where the trident is and reveals that she hasn't been able to do it because it needs a king or the true king.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There was one other thing
Go ahead.
I wanted to mention. The second Easter egg that I found, when Mera takes Aquaman to Atlantis, she parked her vehicle in like part of it's like a container or something that fell into the ocean.
The Chum one? Chum?
The Chum container. Yeah. The Chum container. When they're leaving there. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of garbage and stuff at the bottom of the ocean. The Annabelle doll is there in the corner.
I read that the Annabelle doll was in there somewhere.
Yeah, I just caught a quick glimpse of it as they drove by. So it was kind of a shout out to The Conjuring and
nice.
like those movies.
That makes sense.
Anyway, sorry.
All right. So Arthur goes into the place where the King Atlan is actually imposed himself, I guess, or his self-imposed exile.
You see him in like thousands of years ago. He stood there with the trident.
Yeah, he's still there.
Just
took a big nap that never ended. But he's being guarded by the Karathan.
Yeah.
It's basically this big, massive creature that guards the trident. But then Aquaman proves himself worthy to pick up the trident. There's this really cool scene where the Karathan can actually understand him. Or sorry, he can understand the Karathan.
So she speaks.
Yeah.
And you know who does her voice?
I didn't notice. I couldn't tell.
Julie Andrews.
Really?
Mary Poppins?
Yeah.
Mary Poppins.
Yeah. Sound of
which
Music.
is funny because...
Wait, was she Sound of
I think it's Sound of Music. Which is funny because Mary Poppins is opening now, the sequel. But it's Julie Andrews' voice, and it's done really well. I think she does a great job. The conversation, I think, is pretty well written.
Yeah.
And the design is great because you never actually see what she looks like.
Until later.
It's just these massive, like, arms, these tentacles, like, until later. And it's just like...
it's kind of a 180 from what I was expecting. Like, what the actual creature looks like versus what just the tentacles are. Like, I figured the tentacles, you'd, like, look at this big Cthulhu-looking creature, and it was not necessarily
Which is another reason why I was like, why did they choose Dunwich Horror? Dunwich Horror, they could have chosen Call of Cthulhu as a book. But what was I going to say? Another movie this reminds me of is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, absolutely,
Because that movie also has a significant, dense plot, which sometimes doesn't make any sense, and sending people to different locations for like the stringiest of reasons.
Yeah.
And also features a giant kraken. So
right.
so kind of reminds me of that as well. And both adventure movies.
Right. So Arthur gets a pass from the Karathan or the Karathan. I don't know. Fuck it. I'm going to mispronounce it the rest of this episode. And rips the trident from King Atlan's hands. And to add insult to injury to that, he also steals his clothes and makes his through waterfall entrance as the true Aquaman in the DC extended universe.
Great scene.
It was a great scene.
Super cheesy.
I would have liked to see where he picks up the trident, he starts swimming out, he's like,
looks back.
I'm going to go and get his clothes. And then he just gets changed.
He's just changing.
Yeah. I thought what was going to happen was he picks up the trident and then the armor and stuff just transposes onto him.
They did have some weird connecting thing where he rips it out of his hands and there's still like this gold thing.
But instead that didn't happen, so I'm only led to believe that he just picked up the gear and he's like, I'm going to wear this too.
That's right.
Checks his pockets for money.
He's probably got some gold doubloons here somewhere.
For sure.
So anyway.
While all this is going on and he's, re-equipping his clothes and stealing gold doubloons off of a king, we also have this subplot going on where basically all the kingdoms are still trying to be united by Orm and Nereus. Mm-hmm. And they try to go over to the fisherman tribe or
the fisherman
kingdom, fisherman kingdom, and get them to agree to a war after wanting them to. Basically, they try to get him to agree to war. It doesn't really go so well because he straight up murders him in cold blood in front of his daughter and is like, "All right, now we're gonna go to war." And she's just like, "All right, cool."
Orm has had enough.
Yeah, he's not
his
fucking
patience
around.
is wearing thin.
Yeah, he's like, I got shit to do, man.
Yeah, he's not fucking around. And when he stabbed him, I was legit surprised. I was like, holy fuck, he just stabbed him in the chest. Because that was, I don't know how to pronounce his name. We were just talking about Jimon Hansu.
Yeah.
And playing the Fisherman King. And he was prosthetics, like from like the waist up, basically all prosthetics.
Yeah.
And it looked great. And again, another example of going to another kingdom and just being like, this is just, there's so much culture, so much thought put into all of this.
Yeah, agreed. So anyways, after he gets the aggressive buy-off from them, he proceeds to attack the brine and to get more agreement?
Well, basically,
at this point, why doesn't he just say, fuck it, I'm going?
Yeah, he wants the brine's fleet. So he's forcing the brine to bend the knee.
Right.
Or the multiple
So he figures starting a war with the brine against those troops is going to get him those troops. He's going to kill off half of them, and he's going to be like, I'll take what's left.
Exactly.
He's better off just getting a bunch of chum and leading the trench with him. Like, come on, guys, come on, go get him.
Right.
The trench will eat anything. They're savages.
That's true. I was really hoping they'd do more with the trench because in the comics there is a trench queen and she's like intelligent and there is some backstory with the trench.
Right.
Maybe that's something they could get into in a sequel, but they definitely the trench are just mindless cannibals.
Yeah.
Like in this movie. So this scene is like the big war scene
leading up to it.
So the two anything between the two armies fighting at this point?
No, I was going to go right into the Aquaman return. But before we even get to that, one thing I wanted to talk about was Ocean Master's helmet.
Oh, so good.
It was good. It's funny.
Loved it.
There's so many like iterations of characters, of comic book characters in movies now where they do something different with their headpieces.
Yeah.
They went for it with Orm, not only in the fact that it is comic accurate, they also had all of the expressions in his eyes echoing through, and the jaw was just moving. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, I loved it.
I was curious to see how, like, as soon as I saw them putting that on, I'm like, I wonder how this is going to look.
Yeah.
And it looked perfect. It looked so cool. They did a good job.
So good. And this reminds me of the first Thor movie where I loved the production design in Asgard for Thor because they had the massive helmets.
Yes.
And they immediately ditched them in the other movies, which I thought was a total waste. Like just seeing Odin and Loki and with the massive horns. It was great. And it kind of reminded me of that. They fucking went for it.
Yeah.
Black Manta and Orm's helmet looks so good, and it looked like I don't know what else to say about it. It just looked good, like you said. The expressions,
but not only just that, the costume,
the cape
looked
amazing.
Yeah, the cape, the purple, like it was a perfect color. Like it just looked. It looked good. Ripped it from the pages.
Yeah,
and I'm not a person like I've talked about how I like seeing what's in the comics on screen.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that it is 100% necessary to happen. No. It's just as a comic book fan. Seeing that happen, it's nice. It's a nice little nod. But I'm not saying it's required. I'm just saying they did it in this, and they did it very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
So basically, the brine and the rest of these kingdoms that all got coerced in some form or fashion by Orm, or Ocean Master at this point, this underwater war ensues. And then it's promptly stopped by Aquaman and the Carathan.
Whatever.
Carathan.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just correcting you for fun.
I'm going to call it the Kraken at this point because I know how to pronounce that.
Sure. It's actually Kraken.
You're kidding, right?
I believe...
I'm going to call her Jill. Now, Aquaman and Orm fight after... Basically, they find each other throughout this war and they fight. And then Arthur destroys Orm's trident even worse than Orm destroyed his.
He shatters it.
It shatters. That shouldn't happen. The sheer physics of that, it just doesn't make sense. He would have had to hit it at the very tip of it and the other tip would have had to been dug into something. I had a bone break very similarly to how that... Anyways, long story short. They fight. He breaks the trident. That's when Queen Atlanna shows back up. And then there's a touching moment between the family.
So one thing that I didn't mention before that I quite liked, but they didn't dwell on, is the relationship between Aquaman and Orm.
Yes.
And Aquaman's like, there was a time, he tells him, before they fight the first time in the Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
Where he's like, there was a time that I wanted nothing more than to meet you.
Yeah.
So it was actually a good moment. But they don't dwell on it. They're like, we got shit to blow up.
It was just enough. Yeah, just enough. I agree. That Ring of Fire kind of
the preamble.
There was touching because you see Orm kind of sympathizing, wanting to give him a way out.
Yeah,
doesn't quite get it, and Orm's not going to pull any punches.
Yeah.
But then you also see his armor kind of crack in that too, and saying like, I'd like to meet you in this and that.
I wanted to meet you.
Yeah.
For the longest time. So this sort of wrapping up that story when the Queen shows up to be like, you're both my children.
Yeah. But you're kind of a dick, so we're going to take you away.
You're misguided, she says. Aquaman does call him a dick, though, in that scene. He's like, I didn't know that he turned out to be such a dick. I'm like, that's right.
Kind of is.
Yeah. So let's talk about this, like, this battle, this war scene. It is fucking bananas.
There's a lot going on.
So the brine, they don't even wait. They don't tell you who the brine are or anything. They just show you, and they are a bunch of crustacean people. They're just a bunch of crab people, and I loved it because the guy, I don't know who does the voice for the brine king.
Let me see,
but he just sounds like a wily old Scotsman. You know, like I don't even know if he's Scottish, but he's obviously like. They went with a gruff, like, old man voice for him, like a wily one. It's like, no way.
Yep.
No way. That makes so much sense because I loved his voice.
Solid.
John Rhys Davies.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Oh my God.
Acclaimed Welsh actor John Rhys Davies was born in
Scotsman, but
Ammanford. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I'm not going to read it.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's huge because I loved his voice because when Orm pins him to the ground while there is insane shit happening around. He's like, give me your army. He's like, yeah, you might be able to take my army, but he's like, I'll never bend the knee to you. You soft-bellied something. And I'm like, oh, this is great. He called him a soft-belly because he's a crustacean. You get it? It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. They have a giant, like, lobster crab in the background that's got, like, guns attached to it. And then the Atlantis has these giant, like, eel ships and... Oh my God! And Orm dives into the crustacean army, the brine army, with like his pilosaur. I think it's called a pilosaur. But anyway, he's just like eating people left, right, and starts stabbing people. He's got a bunch of like, oh man, I don't even know how to describe it. It's totally insane.
It's insane. It's a good way to put it.
And then Aquaman shows up with the Kraken, right?
The Kraken.
And and he's also perfected his way of communicating with sea life with the classic comic imagery of the voom, 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 voom thing where you have these rings of...
Yeah.
So he's doing that and he controls the sharks that all the Atlanteans are riding on.
And they start eating their riders?
Yeah.
That was the best.
That was so
I was like, God damn, this guy's still a savage.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I've learned so much that I shouldn't have killed that man's father. However, fuck these soldiers. Sharks, do your work.
Oh,
it's not like they have families.
Yeah, there were so many different creatures here. Oh, it's just nuts. Like, I'm gonna watch that sequence like many times just to get all the details out.
Yeah.
But it looked great. It was very exciting. And again, the score really ratchets things up here. Yes, very good score.
And then seeing Jill as big and crazy as she is, I was just like, God damn.
Oh, I loved it.
It was, like I said, it was a 180 from the design that I would have envisioned for that monster than what we actually got. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just that's how they did it.
That's how they did it.
That's how they did it.
Then there's a great piece of advice Mera gives to Aquaman saying, make him fight on your terms.
Yes.
So he takes him up to the surface and they fight on the surface. And I thought this was a great fight.
Yeah.
And coming back to Black Panther, the Black Panther fight at the end of the movie,
I did
not like it.
No,
it was like it was a big letdown.
Yeah.
For me, it was just this was a good fight. This was a very well choreographed fight. Heavy like has a presence and weight to it.
Yeah.
Great choreography. I liked it a lot.
Yep. That's also where you get a little bit of the haka, right?
Oh, I think in other scenes
there's a couple scenes too. Yeah,
but then he does the haka thing before he starts fighting. I'm like, oh my god, I would have just shat myself.
Yeah. There's a really good video of, I think it was, it might have been the New Zealand basketball team.
Yeah.
And they were against the USA, Team USA, and they were doing the haka before it. Yeah. And you could see the Team USA players like, Jesus Christ, what's happening? USA beat him by 30 points still, but I mean...
That's right.
There was a moment where they were considering not playing. I think that was their strategy. Like, let's scare them and see what
because we suck at basketball.
Well, it's not that they suck. It's just that Team USA is absurd.
Yeah.
But in any case, the haka is one of the coolest things in the world.
Yeah. Well, no, it is. It is, and he does a little bit of that. At least I think it happens twice in the movie. This is one of those scenes. But yeah, and then Orm gets taken away, so he's not killed, and you can see that there's a relationship there that might build later. In other movies, and I like
we'll
that.
talk later or something like that.
It's like when you're ready, we'll talk.
Yes.
That's what he says.
Yeah, and Orm doesn't really have the standard kind of like being taken away, like I'll get you, gadget. Yeah. Like no, it's basically like
he's coming to his own realization.
He's coming to his own realization. The one thing that made him hate his brother is no longer there. His mother's back, right? So it's like, why am I? Maybe I don't need to be upset anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the character Ocean Master in the books. Mm-hmm. However, I don't know whether his motivation is that, or if they get along, or what it is at some point. Like I know he's a villain, but in any case, I'm curious to see what these films do with it. I don't necessarily care what he does in the film in the books. I just think what they did with him in this and having him come to terms at the end and kind of potentially being an ally down the road is good. And then, the film closes out. Aquaman's reclaimed his birthright. He's now the king of Atlantis, basically.
Yep.
He's going to be bridging the gap between the surface world and Atlantis. And you get this nice touching moment at the end where Atlanta goes and shows back up at the dock at the dawn and meets up with Tom. Yep. And frankly, Tom takes it pretty well. I would have been like, the fuck took you so long?
Where the hell have you been?
Yeah. I have no more hair.
Yeah, that's right. She's probably looking at him. She's like, ooh.
She pops her head up. She's like, ooh. And then goes back down.
He's like, oh, he doesn't look like he did before.
Yeah. I think Nereus is single. I'm going back.
Nereus is her. Oh, no, that's right. Sorry. Is Nereus isn't? They never show
the king. I don't think so.
They don't show the one that she was like arranged marriage to.
Right. Yeah.
Orm's father.
Yes.
They never show Orm's father.
Yeah.
So that's the movie, and then we have a small sort of like mid-credit sequence where Black Manta is still alive and gets picked up by a character named Dr. Shin, who's referenced earlier in the movie, and they conspire to find Atlantis. Yeah, essentially.
And I mean, this is to compare him to Darth Vader. This is Darth Vader coming back from the ship after the Death Star gets blown up. Right. That's right. He's in disarray.
Yeah.
He's screwed, but he's still out there.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to... I really hope that the next Aquaman film, because there's definitely going to be another one given the amount of money this movie's making.
Well, I hope so,
I would hope so, yeah. But I'm really hoping whatever they do destroys Atlantis. Like, so you get kind of an Empire feel to it to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really want to see Black Manta come back even stronger and screw things up. Yeah. I'm not saying, and I make this comparison a lot only because of how good Empire was. It doesn't need to be Empire. It doesn't need to be like the exact same tone or the same kind of, but I want Black Manta to come back strong. And go straight at Atlantis.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
That's kind of where I'm thinking that the franchise will hopefully go.
Yeah,
explore. Because the guy that played Manta 2, let's talk about his performance real quick. He was good.
Yeah,
like I said, it's really hard to be so disliked within a minute and then be sympathized for a minute, and then go back into not. Because at the end during that stinger.
Yeah,
I sympathized with him again.
Yeah, that's right.
He's being kind of nice and friendly to Shin when you're not expecting him to.
That's right.
It's just a complex character, and I like that. And I can't wait to see more of him.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
There was one other thing in the movie that I thought, again, they could have played up. They didn't, like, they could have made Orm a much more sympathetic character, because they have that moment where the tidal wave goes onto the shores and they show these televised events of showings like all this garbage is washed up on shore, and I thought that was hilarious and very poignant, where it's like basically Orm has thrown all the garbage in the sea back on land, and I'm like, that's funny and timely and
appropriate.
They show it. Orm says it. He says it once, and it kind of goes away after that. I really wish they could have, but there was so much in this movie. They obviously prioritized the fun sort of adventure feeling, the science fiction stuff over some of those other character moments that they could have spent more time on.
Right.
I think it was just like a missed opportunity there to make Orm more sympathetic.
Perhaps, yeah. I think he now, like Aquaman in this film, has room to grow.
Right.
They gave him. They didn't make him unlikable, and they didn't make him irredeemable.
Right. Yeah.
Did I ever say that name?
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
He's still a character that can grow, and I think come back as an ally in future films. So I think that there's room for that, which is good.
Right.
Yeah. He's not like a one-note character.
Let me just check my notes here real quick and see if I missed
anything else.
something.
I'm pretty much covered. I think we covered all of the walls breaking scenes.
Yeah.
So that's basically my takeaway for today was I want you to know, as a listener and potentially a viewer of this film, how many walls got broken in this.
Yeah.
And when you watch the film, you'll be like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, if you watch the film with that knowledge, they'll start really standing out with you.
Hundo.
The last thing I want to mention is small, like there's a slew of small horror directors taking on massive scale movies. This is just one of them. James Wan, we already talked about his background and what he's done directing Aquaman. But Michael Dougherty, who wrote and directed Trick or Treat and Krampus, he is directing Godzilla, King of the Monsters, right? And David Sandberg, who did a short film called Lights Out, horror film, short, like 8-minute thing, and then did a full feature film, Lights Out, and he's done a ton of other low-budget horror films. He's directing Shazam.
Oh.
Yeah. And Adam Wingard, who did You're Next, and a lot of other, among other horror movies. He's directing Godzilla vs. King Kong, like the movie after. These are small horror directors that are getting massive movies, and it is awesome. Because being these smaller horror directors, they really... I feel like there's something about working on a movie where you don't have a lot... You have to be mega creative. You don't have a lot of budget, and you need to tell a story, and you need to scare people and build an atmosphere that these guys, they know it. They're familiar with that, and they're given, $200 million to make a massive movie. So I really love this. I love this trend of these smaller horror directors getting these massive movies.
Right. I mean, that was also because I had to look up his name, but basically Gareth Edwards was in the same boat with Godzilla. He had done that Monsters.
He did. But do you see how Monsters was a smaller budget film, but the actual content of that movie was very similar, just in terms of scale.
Sure, true, yeah.
So I agree with you, but coming from a movie like You're Next,
right,
to like Godzilla versus King Kong,
right? Yeah,
that's a massive jump. Gareth Edwards is a little different because Monsters was a movie that was kind of about giant monsters, but certainly building atmosphere on a budget, did the effects himself,
right.
Very hands-on.
True.
So yeah, these small horror directors getting these massive films, I love it. I think that's really working. It's really working for folks. So,
good job, Hollywood. You've made some good decisions recently. Good job. All right. Well, that's the episode, I think.
Yes, it is, and that was a long one, but it was a lot to unpack there. It's a very dense
I regret
movie.
nothing.
Yeah.
You're probably listening to this, and you're off on your Christmas break, and hopefully you got a little time for the podcast.
This is a perfect movie for the holidays. It's light. It's entertaining and kind of like fluffy. You're not going to walk away from this like really any thought-provoking material or anything, but this is definitely a demo disc too. When this comes out, I'm buying this on 4K for sure.
True that. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for listening and watching. This has been Justin.
This is Atul.
Have a good happy holidays, I guess, right?
Yep, that's right. We'll see you guys in January.
Take care. Cheers.
Drums.